For more on this, I'm joined now by John Isaacs. He is the Executive Director of the Center for Arms Control and Non-Proliferation, where he focuses on missile defense and nuclear weapons. And it's good to have you with us.
Thank you, Judy.
So just from what you've seen of that missile and anything else you know about it, what can you tell us about it?
This is something that the North Koreans have done twice already. They've conducted two missile tests, once in 2006, once in 2009. Neither one were very successful, and so they're trying again. Ultimately, this missile, if it's successful, could go as far as the western United States, Alaska, Hawaii. But it's a long way from developing this missile, as the North Koreans want to do, but to also develop a nuclear bomb that they can mate to the top of the missile.
Well, they say right now this is just a missile to get a satellite into
Correct.
orbit. It seems to be that kind of missile at the very least.
But the same technology could be used for launching a satellite or launching a nuclear warhead.
How sophisticated a missile is it? Can you compare it to anything else that the United States knows about?
It's sophisticated. If they can get it to work, it's sophisticated, I think, by definition. If it could carry a warhead thousands of kilometers, it would be very sophisticated. But it's not easy to do. And when the United States launched itself into the missile race, in the 1960s, our first tests were quite unsuccessful, and that seems to be happening with North Korea as well.
So does this appear to be the same type missile that the North Koreans tried in, you said, 06 and 09?
We think it seems to be about the same. We call it, the United States calls it a Tapo-Dong, I think, 2, and I don't know, the North Koreans have a different name for it. Yes, roughly the same kind, 3-stage rocket, and sometimes the third stage hasn't worked in the past.
So how much is known about how successful this missile is? I mean, you sound like it's not clear.
Well, no, the last tests have not been very successful. The North Koreans, I think, in 2009 claimed that they had launched a satellite into space, but there's no record that actually happened. I think they were claiming falsely that the rocket was more successful than it in fact was.
So, but assuming they were successful with this missile, getting a satellite into orbit, what about the next step? If they had in mind putting some sort of nuclear warhead on there, is that the kind of missile that would carry a nuclear warhead? Do
Yes.
the North Koreans have that capability?
They have a capability of developing a nuclear weapon. They have an estimated 3 to 6 nuclear bombs already. That's different from developing the technology of a nuclear bomb small enough to fit on the top of a rocket and travel a long distance, and they certainly don't have that technology as yet.
They certainly don't.
not.
So how far away are they?
Who knows? I can't say. I just don't know.
In other words, what they have now is not small enough, isn't the right size, the right technical specifications to work with that kind of missile.
That's certainly as far as we know. I mean, quite frankly, of course, the North Korean government and society is a very secretive one, and so we don't know everything that's happening, but we are able to monitor the nuclear tests, we're able to monitor the missile launches, and that's the best estimates we have, that they haven't developed the technology to deliver a bomb a long distance.
Well, since we have to engage in hypotheticals here, since it isn't known clearly what they can do, if they were to get the missile to work, and if they were to get the nuclear warhead, as you say, small enough to work on that particular missile, how much damage could something like that do?
Well, any nuclear bomb, and this is a relatively small one that the North Koreans have tested up to now, can do obviously a lot of damage. I mean, 2 small bombs destroyed 2 Japanese cities in 1945 in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So clearly a bomb could do a tremendous amount of damage if it could be delivered on a city, let's say.
And is there technology to compare in other countries with what the North Koreans might be working on?
Well, there are 9 nuclear powers at this point, and including North Korea, not including Iran, which seems to be moving somewhat in that direction. But India and Pakistan, for example, have that technology, and the Indians keep working on longer-range missiles that could deliver a nuclear bomb a greater distance.
In the best-case scenario, if you're speaking from the North Korean perspective, what's the soonest one thinks that experts think that they could put something together that would be a threat?
Again, it's really hard to say because there's just too much secrecy within the country. But considering all the troubles they've had thus far in developing the technology, it's pretty surely many years away. And even having 1 or 2 missiles with a nuclear bomb obviously could cause a lot of damage, but there's a lot of potential response. I mean, the United States has some 1,550 long-range nuclear warheads that we could deliver on targets. Russia obviously has a lot as well. So even if there's a threat of a nuclear bomb from North Korea, there's appropriate response. Plus, we have a lot of the United States has a lot of conventional power in South Korea and in Asia.
In other words, going after the launch site, you were saying, before they could launch something.
I don't think anyone's proposing that.
Okay. But you mean going after the missile in flight? Is that what you're saying?
For many decades, the United States had a very strong deterrent force against the Soviet Union. In that case, the Soviets had many thousands of nuclear weapons. If the North Koreans develop and are able to produce the technology to get a nuclear bomb that could go to long distance, I'm saying we have an appropriate response to forestall any attack. In other words, having a bomb and using it are two very different things.
It sounds like there are still a number of ifs.
Oh, there are many ifs here. I mean, this seems to be done from North Korea's perspective more for power and prestige. This is the 100th anniversary of the birth of the founder of the country. This is the year of prosperity in the country. So I don't think there's an aggressive intent in terms of launching an attack, but it's to show that North Korea is a power that has to be dealt with. And if you're North Korean, you look what happened in Iraq in 2003. Iraq didn't have any nuclear forces. The United States decided to launch an attack to remove Saddam Hussein. But the second part of the axis of evil, we have never launched that kind of attack on North Korea.
And just finally, John Isaacs, how closely do you think you and other proliferation experts are going to be watching what happens?
I'll be watching very closely, but it may happen in the middle of the night. And of course, Korean time is something close to a day ahead of ours, so it's a little hard to figure out. The test is supposed to occur between April 12th and 15th, so we have a window of about 4 or 5 days. So I'm not going to stay awake all 5 days if that's what you're asking.
All right, John Isaacs, we thank you very much.